Hi, everyone watching. This is a new series called Night Vision, where we talk about dreams and just share our experiences in a free-flowing kind of way. My name is Joel Brown. I've been dreaming my whole life, making art about dreams, and I wrote a book called Dreams and Intuition. And I'll let my first guest introduce herself.
Yeah, hi there, everyone. My name is Juliana Devar. I am founder and dream guide of the Honey Hive. My specific style of dreaming is definitely collective dreaming and working with group dream energy. And then, yeah, Joel and I met on Twitter. So if you guys hop on the Twitter, you can definitely find a really great dreaming community who shares daily dreams there.
Yeah, that is how it all started. I was on there a few years ago, and I just noticed people were making like dream summaries in tweet form.
Yeah,
that's what we do. And now sometimes they end up being multiple tweets, like a thread, but it's kind of more fun when it's just like one you can just read real quick and just retweet.
I completely agree with that. There's something in like the short format dreaming when you're like reduced to a certain amount of characters that you really get down to the essence of the dream. So even in the place of like having a dream and then making a tweet of it, you're already initiating the dream work process. So it's already like, okay, what am I sharing? What elements, what parts are most important to share and voice?
Yeah, that's pretty great. So I guess we're just start out with talking about like the dream style, which you mentioned, and I'd want to know how the dreaming process of paying attention to your dreams and recalling them and expressing them however you do, whether it be writing or telling other people, or for me, it's been visual art sometimes. How has that been front and center in your life at different periods? And are there times when it's more important than others? Or, has it caused any big changes in your life at certain parts? I don't know, just wherever you want to start, however far back you want to go in time.
Yeah, totally. I feel like that's such a big question, and there's so many different places to enter within it. So the first thing that I think I'll share between that is, dreaming for me has always been a huge part of my life ever since I was a little kid. And it's been part of my identity, but it wasn't until my mid-20s. What? I'm so sorry.
Sorry, I'm getting a little freezing on the video.
Oh no.
All right. I think
it's better.
It seems okay now. Yeah.
Okay, sorry guys. See, this is where you're editing. If you learn to edit, you could just take that right out. But yeah, so dreaming has...
Okay.
Cool. Sure. Dreaming has definitely always... Yeah. Okay, cool. Dreaming has definitely always been part of my identity. Ever since I was a little kid, I had a lot of nightmares, but it wasn't really until like my mid-20s that I started doing dream work. And that really kind of happened from like a spontaneous awakening that I had within the dream space. So for me, what my style of dreaming definitely looks like is very community-based. I host dream circles, and I think that there's so much importance to being able to share and talk about our dreams. I think that what really comes up for me with this is that when I wake up in the morning, sometimes it's like almost that I'm too close to it to understand it. So I could do great things like dream journal, and I can meditate and I could understand it. But for me personally, where I get a lot of value and insight is being able to reflect the dream to a friend or to a group, and then to give feedback. So even this morning, I woke up from this crazy 3-part dream all about death, where I was re-experiencing like the death and this fight with this being across lifetimes. And I shared it this morning with a friend, and I was unexpected, ended up turning into like a half-hour long phone call of just really being able to get into the dream. And initially what I felt from the dream was a very disempowering state. I was like kind of frustrated. There's a lot of death and fighting and a lot of tension that was then stored in my body. Waking up, I felt exhausted and anxious. But by the time that I was done communicating with my friend, I came to this place of like empowerment and excitement of like, okay, what's the next step with this dream? So I really believe that like with dreams and dreaming, it isn't enough just to write it down, just like how you said you do art, which is absolutely beautiful. But it's like, how are we getting the dream out there? How are we transforming it? How are we understanding how it is affecting our lives, right? Because I think so many people are experiencing dreaming, right? Everyone dreams, and yet they're not realizing how much it actually affects the way that we move in the world.
Yeah. I don't know if you ever had this experience, but the deeper I've gone into dream work through the years, like before we started recording, I was asking you about how much your waking life interlocks with the dream world, because they're totally a continuum. They're not like, they're not little isolated hallucinations that that don't have anything to do with like your whole being, you know. They're everything. And but so I've noticed sometimes whenever I go to share a dream with someone, it could be on Twitter, but I mean mostly like if I'm like talking to someone, there's something like that happens in that expression sometimes that actually a waking event unfolds because I spoke that dream. And sometimes it can be like the fulfillment of that dream. Like one time I was in this space that was like a warehouse talking to someone about my dreams because they knew I was interested in it. And I think they had asked me something as sort of the conversation. And I was telling them about a recurring dream that I had maybe a dozen times. Like, this was probably like, well, throughout my late 20s. And like, I told them like towards the end of the dream, there was this space that was like this warehouse. And I was really trying hard to like describe to them like what it looked like and felt like. And I would just like, I came to a stall and I just couldn't do it. And then once I like gave up, I just kind of like looked around and I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
This is what the dream is like, the space that we're in right now. And there's another example that I have in my book is like, I had a dream that I went to I had a dream that I went to a bar, but it was in a house that was just like in a neighborhood with other houses. And I went in and it seemed like somewhere familiar that I hadn't been in a while, that I used to go to in my dream self. And they gave me like a really interesting drink, and it had like, I could remember the taste really clearly. There was like grapefruit and like these other types of like liqueurs and things. And one day I was telling my friend about this dream, and I was trying to describe to her the flavor of the drink. And I like just drawing a blank. I was just like, I don't know how to describe it. And then once I gave up, I just kind of like looked down and we were having drinks and she had just like made me a drink. And I was like, no, this is it. This drink that you just gave me, this is exactly what it was. Yeah.
It's so funny it's so funny that you're called to share these dreams when and they manifest like in the sharing of the dream. Like that's so crazy.
Yeah. So that's why now I always feel like I believe sharing dreams is just inherently good. And like because you know, sometimes, you know, some people don't think about dreams or they don't remember dreams, or maybe they don't even want to hear about your dream and they think it's annoying. But like, if I feel compelled to now I'm just at the point where I will always do it with someone, even if I don't know what the response is going to be like, because I know that sometimes in that moment, some sort of magic is unlocked. So I think it's good to always bring up those images from the subterranean dream world.
I think definitely with consent. I have to say that sharing dreams with consent is so important, because I've definitely had dreams pushed upon me from other people that that I'm just like, I wish you didn't share that with
Sure.
me. And especially, this is where it's like, when it comes into like, right, psychic dreaming, where people think that they've had a dream about you, and then they assume that the character in the dream, because it took your face, is about you.
Right.
And so then they'll share it with you, and you're like, excuse me, like,
Yeah.
no. So it is interesting, right? The lines between like psychic dreaming and then having a dream character take on the energy of someone that you know.
Yeah. Yeah, like we were saying earlier, that's happening with me so much, where like I dream about someone, but then later I realize it's not that person at all. Or sometimes in the dream it's like seems like an unfamiliar person, like just a dream character, but then I realize it's about someone who I know very well once I think about it.
Yeah, that's totally like working with, right, more of the energy that's held within the character rather than the face that it's chosen to take it on.
Yeah. And that's why the sharing and the writing down is so important too, because I feel like a lot of times the most important content or like discovery of meaning comes from just when you're describing something or someone. So just like this sort of adjectives and things that, oh, you know, it made me feel this way or made me feel that way. Once you write it down, that's when you realize, oh, that's how I feel about this thing in my waking life or this person in my waking life. But I wouldn't have character because the dream.
Yeah, that's actually a really good dream working tip that you've just given, right? Like if you can't understand a symbol or a person, asking those questions, how does this make me feel? What does this do? What is its function? Like asking and just kind of expanding from that place to then like kind of come into the world of the symbol to see what that could possibly mean to you.
And sometimes if you really go deep into like meditating on a dream after you wake up, you really, like, one of the methods that I like to do is really clear my mind of everything else and just put myself back in the dream. And if I've just woke up, then it's probably easier because they still have some of that dreaminess floating around in your mind. And but two things can happen there. One is that you can remember things sometimes that it's almost like you didn't even remember them when you first had the dream. It's almost like you get extra because it's like the dream is like a standalone reality, and it's like your original memory of it that you're rehashing or recording is incomplete. But once you like put yourself back into it, you can be like, imagine you're back in the space, and then you notice something else that's in that space that you didn't actually have in your first memory. And when it comes to dream like that, sometimes you can even like try to converse with that, like converse with a dream character, perhaps, like maybe ask them a question. I mean, I think that's a more like sort of that's not something I do every day with my dreams, but like I think when you get really deep into like a dream meditation and like replaying in your mind, sometimes you can actually do that, and then just through your intuition, the extra content comes out, or maybe, you know, a person even gives you an answer to a question or something that you asked them.
Yeah, that's definitely like a dream re-entry technique, right? And just knowing that the dream before the part that you remembered, the dream had already begun, and the dream will continue long after you start remembering or stop remembering it, right? So like you're only seeing a few frames of a dream, but truly it had no beginning and it has no ending. When we go into dream re-entry, we can really begin to dream the dream forward, or dream even the beginning of the dream, and see what else is there, what else can we uncover. As well as exploring the characters and the setting and the other dynamics. It's almost this place of like any place within the dream can be re-entered, and it's so multidimensional that you can take it any way, even like as something as simple as like a small symbol versus the scene, right? Any place within the dream is completely a place to play. Yeah.
And that's another thing that advice for dreamers that I give is that like there are no details really, because everything is significant that you remember in a dream. You know, like if I recall something that happened in my day when I'm awake, you know, there are certain things that don't matter. Like mundane things that happen when you're at work or something. Like if I tried to tell you certain details about like a transaction I carry out at work, something like there's not going to be anything really relevant or significant to that. But like if I have a dream about those sort of things and I remember it, then there's some reason that I remembered it. And like, so when you're writing it down, like nothing should really be ever neglected
left out
or left behind. Yeah.
Totally. And I love, because what that brings up for me is also recognizing how the different pieces and elements of the dream are communicating with each other. So you may feel that like the same symbol or experience will be expressed in other objects or people, or hold that same energy. So on the same vein as like everything holds potential, also knowing that like everything within the dream is in relationship to each other and is informing the greater story that's coming through.
Mm-hmm. I always think about the phenomenon of memory in relation to dreams. Like they're so deeply related. I find I have a lot of false memories in dreams, where like in the dream something seems very familiar. Like I might be somewhere and I feel like I've been there many times before and like I know it very well, but when I wake up it doesn't even resemble anywhere I've ever been.
But that's comparatively speaking from the dream space to the waking space, but you may have traveled there many times before within the dream space. You may not just have had the memory of it, right? So it can incredibly be a space that is inherently familiar and true, but if you're comparing it to your waking life, you may be like, this is not anywhere I've been.
Yeah, I've definitely thought that, because that's the feeling you have sometimes. And if I know that I'm dreaming in some cases, then I can actually think about that too. Sometimes in the dream, I can be like, oh, I'm dreaming and I've dreamed this before. But I think it's interesting because I don't know. It's because it kind of makes me think about how memory in a sense is just kind of like a feeling. If you look at something and you have the feeling that's familiar, the feeling that you know it, yesterday I was actually thinking about how the only sort of waking comparison I could give to that would probably be deja vu, because it's something where you don't have any logical reason why this thing should be familiar, but you just have the feeling that it's familiar and the feeling that has happened before, but it doesn't actually make any logical sense.
Well, I want to know, what's your thoughts on deja vu? Because I definitely have mine. And I'll share mine real quick. I think that deja vu is basically experiencing a dream in waking life, right? We dreamt it before. Much of our, I'm very much into precognitive dreaming. And I think that we have dreamt everything that we are to experience, whether or not we remember it. So for me, deja vu is a re-experiencing of a dream we had. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. I don't have any firm conviction about it. I've been having it a couple times recently, but it had been a long time since I remember having it.
I had this one. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I just had some yesterday, and yeah, it's just similar to the dream. It's like nothing really significant is going on at that moment. I was at work, but it's interesting to see how long it can go for, because usually it's pretty quickly, but sometimes you get ones that stretch out for like a couple minutes.
I had this one experience where I was in San Diego. So I'm originally from Los Angeles. Right now I live in Oregon, but I was in San Diego, which I never go to San Diego. And I was in the back of an Uber van on Halloween, and I had deja vu twice, not back to back, but I experienced deja vu and then re-experienced being in deja vu about the deja vu. So it was almost like, boom, boom. And it was such a trip to be like, whoa, this has been done twice before.
Yeah, I definitely, that resonates with me about dreaming about essentially maybe everything that happens. I don't know. It just, the way that waking life interlocks with a dreaming life, the more you get into the dream work, I feel like, things happen when they're supposed to happen. And so I might say I dig up a dream journal tonight that I forgot that I had, and, say it was from 10 years ago. There's a good chance that dream that I read in that might be talking about something that's going to happen to me tomorrow, something.
So you experience longer manifestations between your dreams? Because I know that like a dream can happen like years later. For me personally, my manifestation turnaround is like 1 to 3 days. It's actually pretty quick. And then that's like what most dreams are like. My mundane dreams are like 1 to 3 days. Yeah. And then usually if I look back within a month, if I look back on my dreams, the majority of them will have already manifested. I definitely tend to dream of the future more than of the past.
Yeah. I'm pretty much like equally both, like future and past, and also long manifestation and the day. Like I was saying, the daily, I dream about things that happen the next day, and they don't even seem to be important, but but it just continually shocks me. I'm just like, oh wait, no, I dreamed about that. That already happened in my dream. But like whenever I was making all my dream art when I was in school, I can show you like.
Yeah, show us.
I have like I have a giant portfolio of the paintings I made, and this was like living at my mom's house for. I mean, I've been out of school for like. Now or something, so 13 and a half, but just like last year at one point, I asked if I could get some of the art from there, and I think some of these dreams that I like once this book came back into my life, I think some of them when I looked at them were about things that happened since I got them back. You know, it's like within the past year.
Wow.
I don't know if you can see.
I can barely see. I think I need higher. And then because okay, it's not totally on the screen. No, I think that actually, can you move your phone?
I could try. I guess I could just
Can you reverse the camera?
I should be able to. Oh wait, no, that's
at the top. There's a little camera button on the top left if you're on your phone.
There we go.
Okay, cool.
You see that?
Wow, yeah. Wow. Okay, so we have some boxes. We have a face with a halo and people walking through. What is this? A mountain, and there's a portal to the other side?
So this is actually supposed to be the interior of a cave, like if you had a cross section of it. And this was a dream I had in college. And the farthest figure was me. I had long hair then. And that was my mom. And then this was my brother with the halo, and he told us to come to this cave where he said he had found these ancient scrolls that were essentially like, you know, extra Dead Sea Scrolls or something. And he said that they taught him how he could move these giant stone blocks with his mind. And so he was sitting in this little pit surrounded by them, and this one is floating.
Okay, but you know, we definitely, I mean, I'm all here for like the ancient aliens and people who actually said that they used to be able to move the giant stones to help build these pyramids with their mind.
Yeah,
so well, I'm here for this. I believe this.
Right? Yeah,
I believe this thing.
I think some of the theories about that are that they actually use like sound wave technology.
Wow.
Too. But yeah, so there's like the little scrolls here, and the is it better if I put the light shining down on it?
I can't. Oh, it's a little bit brighter. Yeah, actually, because you could see what's it called, definition.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see another one. Whoa.
Like okay, so what? That's like a dancing group. What's that?
With like cloths, or is that spillage?
Do you say cloths?
What does that sense? Yeah, what is that? What are the colors that they're
waving around cloths.
Gotcha.
And it was like a African dance troupe or something. But I got like invited in, and I was like, that's me.
That's amazing.
but then there was this other woman back here who like at one point stepped in and was like yelling at me or something. She's pointing at me.
Cool. What is your favorite painting that you've done in here, or what's been the most noticeable? Actually, what was the craziest dream? I should ask that.
Okay.
Let's see that one.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna give you two.
Okay.
This one is maybe the best artistically, and like people seem to react to it the most. Right here.
Whoa.
So when the dream started, there was this guy who was some sort of warrior, and he had long hair and armor, and he was standing on these rocks by the ocean, and this prehistoric sort of toothed dolphin just leapt out of the water towards him, and he had one of those like Morning Star mace things, like the ball and chain with the spiky ball.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he like threw it at the dolphin real quick, like quick reflex, and killed it. But then the second he did that, it was like he underwent this transformation, and his hair fell off and his armor fell off.
Whoa.
And then he had this glowing robe like a monk. He had no hair, and he had like a cross pendant, and then instead of his other weapon, he had this it was basically like a sort of lightsaber thing. It was like a glowing sword made of light. But now that I look back on it now, I think that that's sort of more of a symbol of like raising one energy within, like the ascent of energy within, like because the way it like formed like ascending.
Yeah, I get like sword of truth with that. Whenever I look at that, I think of like a blazing sword of truth. I'm curious about how the act of violence to the dolphin helped spawn the awakening. Was it one of those things where you just finally realize and get it, or was it the dolphin trying to attack him, and what that whole deal was?
Yeah, I don't entirely know. I mean, it seemed like it was trying to attack him, and he just had this like quick reflex, but I don't know why that. I have never really had a strong feeling about what the dolphin represented.
Yeah.
So this is still
because when I think about dolphins, they're so innocent and playful and intelligent. Yeah. So it's like interesting also that it was like a dolphin that,
But but it had these sharp teeth though. So I don't know what that's called. Maybe it's more similar to like a narwhal or something. But I mean, it's like I think it's like a prehistoric thing. I don't know. So back in the time when I was doing this, I guess the craziest dream, most intense one is this one.
Whoa. It's kind of like the beginning of Aladdin when you see the dark clouds and the jaguar's face. I think maybe it's a jaguar.
I don't remember. But this dream, I was hoping we'd talk about this one actually, because when I had this dream, it felt unlike any other dream. Because, the feeling of a dream deserves, the most attention. And like, I felt like I was just in another dimension. I didn't feel like I was dreaming really. Like even after I woke up, I didn't feel like I had been asleep and dreaming. I felt like I had just transitioned back to
totally.
Like I was already awake. Like when I woke up, I didn't have any sort of like grogginess or tiredness. I was like, oh, I'm fully awake, just like I was a minute ago in that dream.
Wow. Yeah.
And I had many more iterations of this dream, but none of them were as intense as the first one. And in the dream, so yeah, this is like 15 years ago or so. And I was in some room at my school, and there was some sort of machine in the corner that kind of looks like a power saw or something, but the machine broke down and this red rubber disc shot out of it, and it stuck to my back. And I tried to peel it off, and it was glued there. Like I started bleeding, and I was like, oh my God, what is that? Ooh. And someone said to me, oh, the technology that humans have made has become too advanced. And basically saying like, now it's intelligent and it's working against us, is basically what they're saying. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my God, we got to do something about this. And I stepped outside, and the whole sky was completely black with like clouds, but kind of like soot or something. Like it was just really gross looking. Like the sun was blocked out. And try to put this back. And so I looked around, and there was just this big landscape of sort of like technocracy, where there was just like people doing their jobs in a sort of mindless robotic way and not paying any attention to each other, just being like the epitome of like cogs in a machine. And I just looked around and I was like, no, this is not okay. It's not okay. And then I looked at the sky again, and I said, I got to chant to the sky. I just got to start like screaming at this thing. And I have to get other people to be willing to do it with me. And the more people would do it, then maybe we can like bring it down. And
wow.
I started.
There you go. Sound technology.
Yeah. Good point. This chant just came to me in the dream. It was nothing that I had ever thought of before. It just came right in my dream. And I said, let us lose war. Let us lose greed. Let emptiness be the way of existence, so that love may fill our hearts.
Wow. Okay.
And I kept saying it over and over. And then one of my good friends at the time, like, noticed that it was me. So he was like, oh, okay, what's going on? And so he came over and he started doing it. And the thing I need to mention is that once I started doing it my own, like this glowing orange orb appeared in the sky. But it seemed like, and like the more I did it, the stronger it got, but it was not strong enough to do anything on its own. So that's why I needed the other people. And like once I said it to him, he came over and he started to chant along with me a little. Another orange orb appeared. And then like our other good friend at the time noticed, and he came over and he started doing it. And we held hands and we started doing it. So then there were like 3 orange orbs. And like once there were 3, that was like the sort of critical mass breaking point, where then like it started to actually kind of like scrub the black clouds away. And it just, like,
okay, yeah.
Yeah. It felt like it was like, yeah, like it just reached this point where we could actually be like a viable, like sort of alliance against this like dark force. And so there was like this feeling of like, it wasn't like a feeling like, okay, we won, you know, everything's fine now, but it was like a feeling of like, oh, now like we are able to win if we keep doing this and keep doing the right thing and sort of like clean up the world. Yeah, it was just like a sense of that. But then like right after that, that's when I woke up, and that's when I was like, oh, what? That didn't even feel like a dream. And then I think a couple days later, I was taking a walk, and it had stormed really bad the day before. And I started to think about that dream. And right when I thought about like how it felt so weird, like this interdimensional feel, I looked over and I saw like a tree that had fallen down in the storm, like onto another tree, and just like split it right into like 2. So it seemed like it was some sort of symbol of like the splitting of realities or something, like one bleeding through into another one.
Yeah, totally. I love how then you find the symbolism within the waking life that then supports the dream, right? Like it's all speaking the same language. I'm also curious about like if you took that mantra that you chanted into your life afterwards, right? Because I think that like dreams give us so many beautiful nuggets of wisdom, and it's like it's not just what happens within the dream, it's like what are we taking out of it. So how did that how did you take, if at all, that chanting?
Well, the first thing is that, like I said, I had a bunch of other dreams I get. So I had other dreams where I would see a similar thing with the dark sky and I start chanting on it, and something would always happen. It wasn't always as dramatic or effective as that, but sometimes it was. Otherwise, it just became something that just like played like a prayer, essentially, like just something that played over in my mind a lot. I still find myself saying it sometimes. Like I live alone, so sometimes I just kind of like start saying it like over, and I feel like there's a power in like repeating it, and like, but I definitely did it a lot, like very often back then, like when it was more like of a recent experience. Like yeah, I don't know, just like say it like with a feeling, like it's a feeling of something you do for you, like has like a rhythm, like if you're drumming or something. And like, but now sometimes it just comes to me like when I'm just like say in the shower or something. And I just
I love that.
Start doing it.
Finding your own personal mantra.
Yeah, there's other times where it just, well, similar to in the dream, it just kind of erupts out of me, like I'm not even thinking about it, and then I realize that I just start saying it. Like I'll be just like walking by myself or something, and then I'm just like trying to start saying it.
How cool.
Yeah, but I think that's the only art I've made with it though. But there was another one about that time where I was doing it and I was looking at the sky, and it was more of like a cloudy day. It wasn't like totally black like that, but it just looked like a very gray day. And I kept saying it, and nothing was happening in the sky. And I was like, oh, what's wrong? Like, why isn't it working this time? And after I said it a few more times, finally the whole sky like peeled away as if it was just like a tablecloth or something, like
really
like a curtain, and it just peeled away.
That's also like the power of like, right, repeating things in dreams. So even if we wake up and like we're lucid within the dream and we try it once and nothing works, it's like, give it your heart, give it a couple other goes, actually commit to sticking with it, just like you would in waking life, right? If something doesn't work the first time, you would try again. Yeah.
But once I did, like the whole sky was just like a brilliant white light.
Wow.
And, and it was a strange dream that it always sticks with me too. But it was a little after that, the next part was just kind of strange. Like because it was in the town that I went to school in. That's where the dream was happening. But after like that sky peeled away, then I found myself in a museum, and I looked down and I had like this purple, like medieval armor. Like it had like a purple design on like over the armor, like some sort of royal thing, but like it's definitely just like a knight. And my friend, the same one who was in the other dream, who was like my best friend throughout high school and stuff, he looked over at me and he's like, Joel, you're a fucking knight. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. And then I looked down and I was holding a golden sword, and it was like a really like a wide sort of like broad sword, but for some reason I was holding it by the blade instead of the handle. And so then when I looked down, like it was kind of like cutting my palms a little bit. And then I looked over, and someone who like worked at the museum saw it, and he was just kind of like, oh, that sword goes in that display case over there, like you just put it back.
I love that, because also night vision, another play on you're the night, Joel. Night vision.
Yeah. Night with the K.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of like mantra type things in your dreams while you're dreaming, or any?
Okay, so not too much. The first thing that actually comes to mind though is so for quick background, I was like raised Catholic, but at a very young age I rejected the church, and for like 9 years I was atheist. So I had a specific dream where like I had, like I mentioned in the beginning, a spiritual awakening. And then after then I was like, okay, like what are spirit guides? I want to meet with them. And it was really funny because I basically looked up like how to dream with spirit guides. And it was like this website that was like, all you have to do is ask. And I was like, oh, it's that simple. All I have to do is ask. And so, I asked that day, I was like, okay, I want to meet with my spirit guides. And I had the coolest, most beautiful psychedelic dream where basically this woman was showing herself on top of a hill, and her like hair was blowing back in the wind. And she was singing this beautiful song that sounded like a music box. And she was like, I am the wind that like say blows in the trees. I am the earth, the sky, and the bees. And so she kept singing this beautiful melody about her interconnectedness with like the earth while transforming into a tree, into a lion, into an old woman. And each time she transformed, it was actually in a different artistic style. So it was not like the same thing that was happening, but it was really cool because she would like build herself up into new form and then kind of like disintegrate and move into another. And that, I think that one was really like potent for me, waking up and like immediately like writing down the words that I heard and the song. But I haven't had too many mantras that I have had in dreams. It's always interesting to me though, the word choices that I use in dreams, because it's not the same type of wording that I would use in my waking life.
Yeah.
Like I once had this dream where my friend, she was on an ayahuasca journey, and I was like, you know what? I bet you I can have an ayahuasca dream. I had done ayahuasca once or twice before. And so in this dream, I saw the physical manifestation of some chronic wrist pain that I had had from breaking a wrist and then being a waitress. And I tried to like, you know, make the pain go away on my own, and I couldn't. So then I started praying to, I was like, Heavenly Father, please help me, which I've never uttered the words Heavenly Father in my life. Like those are very potent, specific words that are not part of like my vernacular.
I've been having a similar thing.
And so I was like, that's so strange. That's so weird. So the dream continues, and I meet this amazing tree being who actually physically heals me in the dream space. And I woke up for the first time in like 3 years with no wrist pain. But it's interesting because when I shared my dream with my friend who was in the ayahuasca journey, I said, you know, you were in ayahuasca last night. I wanted to have an ayahuasca dream. I shared the dream. I said, you know, and then I was praying to Heavenly Father, and she was just like, oh, she's like, gee, she's like, I pray to Heavenly Father. I say Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother when I pray. And it was just so shocking because I've never used those words. And so in the dream, I somehow accessed her conscious state while, you know, being in this ayahuasca journey, and then brought that into mine. And I've also just had like other dreams a couple nights recently, or actually last night, where I was trying to get out of like a lower dimensional world. And I was like, lift me higher. And I was praying. I was like, higher and higher, lift me higher, like upon the wings of heaven, lift me higher. And it's just interesting to hear what your dreaming self will pull through when it's so different from your waking wording.
Yeah. I was raised Protestant and Presbyterian, but and I broke away from that when I was about 15. But before that, I was like pretty, you know, intense into, you know, like believed all of it. Like it was part of my family's life. But I remember back then I'd have a lot of dreams, like more nightmares about like evil spirits and things like that. And then I remember once I broke away from it stuff, I didn't really have those dreams for a while. But then once I became like more spiritual in other ways, and like, I mean, I've been on many different paths. I mean, I wouldn't even know how to label it, but like, I still have dreams like where like, I guess you call them nightmares, because they're also like when I'm sort of like battling some sort of evil spirit, but I'm normally not very afraid. I normally feel more in control. At least by the end of the dream I do. But it's a similar thing over the past few years where I noticed that whenever I see these, I don't even normally have a visual memory of it, but of what they look like. But when there are these sort of like negative entities, I just default to break down my focus or confuse me so that I don't remember the words of the prayer and how to say it. Sometimes I have to really focus really hard to remember the dream, because if I don't, then I feel like then they like slip back into being more in control than I am. But it's usually, it feels like being an exorcist in the dreams.
Oh, I totally know what that feels like. I have so many shadow dreams and demon dreams and constantly expelling negative forces. I do so much work in the dream space around that. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And I totally resonate with what you say. It's like sometimes losing the words and just like stumbling and being like, I really need help right now and I can't find the words.
The same thing even happened with sometimes in the dreams where I was doing the other mantra they said, like the lose war, lose greed, all that. It's the same phenomena really, but yeah, I don't know. I normally don't, throughout my life I've like studied like all the like major world religions and stuff, but like I normally don't have a lot of dreams that are directly about those things, but occasionally I do. And I had another one recently, which I won't even say the whole thing because it's a very long one, but and the dream, I was in a place I didn't really recognize, but my intuition told me that it was Pakistan. And I don't know why I would dream about that because I haven't been reading about Pakistan or anything recently. But I knew I was dreaming, and I looked over, and there was kind of this cool architecture that was like built into these cliffs, and it was kind of rocky and sandy. And I saw this guy who was wearing white, like kind of like a head wrap and like flowing gown, sitting on top of the rocks. And at first I assumed that he was Muslim, and like I started taking pictures of the land. And even though it was weird because I knew I was dreaming, but for some reason I thought that if I took pictures, I'd still have them when I woke up. And but as I kept taking pictures, my phone like exploded. Whoa. And like I started bleeding on my face, like my eye. But I still knew that I was dreaming. And like these kids came over and they're like, "Oh, are you okay? Okay." And I was like, "Oh, I'm dreaming. It's okay. Like I'll be fine." And then they said like, "Oh, do you want to go to the garden?" And at first it made me think of like Garden of Eden. And I was like, "That sounds all right." And then I looked over and I saw like these white clouds kind of like coming in real close to me. Like they were like saying like, come this way instead. And it felt like it was like heaven or something. And I was like, I'm going to go there because I can see what that is. I'm not totally sure what the garden is. So like I went to the heaven, but once I walked into it, I was suddenly in this weird train system. And it wasn't a normal train. It almost felt like the style of like an amusement park ride, but it kind of moved up and down like a snake or something. And I was like under it, and I kept trying to jump up in between the cars to like get actually inside the car. And I couldn't do it. And after 3 tries, I got frustrated and I like crawled off to the side of the track where it was just like dirt. And I was like, I need to pray for this machine to shut down because it was evil. And but for some reason in the prayer, I just out of nowhere, I said like, I prayed to Jesus, and I said like, my friend and my savior, Jesus. And I was like, can you end this thing? Can you end this train? And then it like shut down right away.
Whoa.
And then we all had to get out, and we had to like leave the little station through this like sort of like checkpoint. And we all had these medallions on, like a little round one. And oh, your image disappeared. Oh, there you are.
Oh, sorry, my phone's dying.
Okay. The person checking the medallions noticed that mine was cracked. It was like broken. And she was like, "Hey, yours is broken." And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "My friend Jesus broke it." But apparently wherever we were going on this train now was somewhere where like Sikhism was practiced. And I said, "My friend Jesus broke it, but it's okay because I respect the Sikh gurus too." And like, I had not been reading anything about like Sikhism either or Pakistan. And I was just like, why am I dreaming this? But it was so vivid. That was like,
yeah, isn't that so interesting? That like to me what that calls up is like unity consciousness and our ability to tap into like any place in the world and any experience really. Like the dream spaces, you can access so much. And it kind of makes me wonder like, hey, like why am I being shown this now, and how is that serving my waking life, right?
Yeah. Did you have Did you said you had a lot of nightmares when you were younger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did that have anything to do with like being Catholic when you were a kid, or like did that like changing then?
Yeah, a lot of my nightmares actually were from like early childhood trauma. My mom and I fought a lot, and my mom has grown so much now. We have a great relationship now, but as a kid, what I experienced was not okay in like so many ways. And so a lot of those nightmares, I think it's interesting to me because like you would think that as a kid, I was clearly suffering. I was suffering from nightmares and suffering from like what was happening. And at the time there wasn't the language or the understanding that the nightmares were a byproduct of me experiencing my reality. And I really didn't begin to understand that until I got a lot older, actually. But my nightmares were not so much religious based. It's interesting though, because I have this block with actually working with Jesus. But I work really well with Mary. So if I pray to Jesus in a dream and I'll say things about Jesus, Jesus never shows up. Like one time I saw his foot and that was it. But if I switch my prayer and pray to Mary, someone who I actually felt like connected to, instantly the dream transforms and there's changes and everything. Cool. So, but I think that it's not that Jesus isn't showing up for me. I think that it's like a subconscious block that I have where Jesus is like, or, you know, with that.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't think I've had any dream where it was like Mary, but I also, growing up Protestant, we didn't really talk about Mary much, you know. It's not. I was never
Catholic, so the Virgin is pretty big for us.
Yeah. So the school I went to was Catholic, but I went for other reasons. So in college, I mean.
Yeah. I had this really cool dream once where my dog, and I think this is the last thing that I'll share before I actually have to head off.
Okay.
But my dog Riley had actually just passed away. I think he was like 10 or 11 years old. And there was this part of me that he kept coming around in the dreams. And I kind of was just like, I want him to just move on and be happy. And there was a part of me that was also rushing the process because it was painful. And, you know, I didn't want to sit with it as much. I just wanted to like bypass in some sort of way. And it was crazy experience actually, because I was like sleeping on the couch at a beach house, and all of a sudden, like my jaw started aching, like so much pain. And like my bones were just hurting. And then I had a dream about Riley, the dog. Mm-hmm. And so Riley ended up passing away from bone cancer. So I was actually feeling like the pain that he was in from his bone cancer. And so then I prayed to Mary and I was like, can you please take him to the other side? And she came through and she was just like, don't worry. Like, it's not like, he's still here and he still has to finish up his ties before he can come over. And she basically told me like, it's okay, he's fine, like you don't have to rush the process. He's going to be there for a little bit longer and he knows when it's time to leave, but right now he's here to like console you guys in your grief around it. That was incredible.
Something about the dream made me think of another one. I guess this will be my last one I shared. Like, I don't know when I had it a few years ago, and it was a pretty brief. It was almost more just like an image, but like I know, like in the dream, at first I was going through some little like small corridor, like made of wood or something that was maybe, I don't know, 50 feet or something, and it kind of like went maybe seemed like underground, but when I came out, I was on a beach and it was completely dark, like just night, but like, you know, no lights, no moonlight, just kind of dark. And I felt like I was still kind of on this little track that was like the continuation of the corridor. And I was kind of like zooming across it. I don't know if I was really walking or just being carried or just floating maybe, but I don't know, something about you talking about Mary made me think of it. In my intuition, the image flashed my intuition. And I looked out at the shore because the beach was mostly empty. And I looked out at the shore and there was like these 4 women in like some sort of gowns just kind of a flowing sort of aesthetic and feel. And there was some sort of like basin that they were surrounding, like gathered around this thing that may be like this big. And it kind of looked like they were, like it was a ritual or something. Mm-hmm. But they just kind of had this feeling of like, just kind of like opening up to the elements in the earth. Like,
that's so beautiful.
And yeah, it was really
beautiful. Did you join them?
And I just kept moving. I felt like I wasn't really in control. Like I felt like I was just supposed to see it. Like it felt like it was something that would become important later. Like it was almost like a premonition within the dream or something like, yeah, I don't know. Basically that was the feeling that like, oh, you're just seeing something that will become important later. And like, but you're going to keep moving on this track. And then I don't know where it went after that though. But I think about that a lot. Because sometimes whenever I journal my dreams, or like, because sometimes at night I just want to get like my dreaming sensibilities started before I go to bed. So like maybe I'll sit down and start like jotting down dream fragments that I had recently that I didn't get to, and because the more I do it, hopefully like new ones will pop up. Because sometimes once you go to bed, sometimes when you go to bed, you like, well, then you'll remember the dream you had the night before. Just like when you close your eyes.
It's like you lay down and then suddenly you remember all the past dreams. Yeah, I feel that all the time.
I've noticed sometimes even like other things can trigger it too. Like if it's late at night and I have some like alcohol or something, sometimes that like jogs just like a different brain state. But for some reason, whenever I'm like intuiting these things and trying to like, sometimes I just do doodles too. That one's been coming up a lot for me. Like the 4 women like around this basin with these very, very flowy robes on.
I feel like that's an invitation to like what I would do with this is I would dream re-entry and be one of those women and be like, what does it feel like to be here? But instead of just doing the dream, like being within the dream. That sounds beautiful.
Yeah. And find what's, I mean, in the basin, when I bring that image up, I just kind of imagine it being like having some like light within it, because like the scene's very dark, but it's there, but it's like a light, but it's not like a, you know, it's like a warm glow. It's not like a blinding light or anything. It's just like, but it's like they've contained this, they're in this dark
like
environment.
The afterlife, but just some beautiful, blissful place.
Yeah. Because it's like, but everything else is very vast, open, empty space. And the sky and the ocean and the beach, and there's just some little, they've captured this little light or something. Or
I love that. That's so beautiful.
Keeps popping up.
Thank you, Joel. This was such a lovely talk. I appreciate you. Thank you for holding this space.
Likewise. Do you want to share anything? Like if you have anything online or any...
Yeah. If you want to find me, you can find me on Instagram at the Honey Hive Buzz. And then on Twitter at Honey Hive Buzz. So without the B, but I think that's really it. I don't think I could have enough characters for Twitter for that one. And then, if you guys ever want to come to a Dream Circle, I have them quite frequently. So you are always welcome. Reach out to me on the interwebs. Yeah.
How do you do those? Are those on Zoom or how are those?
Yeah, those are going to be Zoom. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, you are welcome to come. I definitely have them. They're a lot of fun. I have anywhere from like 1 to a couple a month, just depending on, honestly, when I just set them. But I think that I'm trying to be more consistent. So I know that I have one coming up April 6th on a Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And then depending on like my work schedule, I might have one next Tuesday, as almost April 6th next Tuesday already. No. Then I think it's like April. I don't know, but hopefully consistently Tuesday nights.
Okay.
But I can't guarantee anything.
How big are the circles?
Usually they're like 4 people, pretty small, pretty nice, intimate. Yeah. It's 2 hours long and we could get into 4 dreams. So it's nice to have them a little bit smaller.
So does someone share a dream and then everyone talks about it and then they take your turn?
Yeah, so we usually share about 4 dreams, and each dream takes anywhere from like 20 to 30 minutes. And then I have a whole format that we go into where we begin to unravel the dream. Sometimes we do meditation, we could do dream re-entry. But yeah.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah,
they're a lot of fun.
Haven't really come across that, so yeah.
You haven't been in Dream Circle, and you definitely have to come.
Yeah, when you said that, I mean, at the beginning about like the sort of the collective and the social dreaming, and that's interesting because I don't know, I feel like the dreams work I do is always so individual or just like one-on-one like we're doing. But
yeah, that's actually what I've definitely heard in like within the dreaming community. That's what I've heard more like men say actually, is that their dream work is individual. And a lot of women do dream circles. So I think it even like it's so interesting, but like I'm all here to have more men coming into Dream Circle. There's something so beautiful about it.
Well, I mean, I guess Twitter is, but that's not live. That's like a circle where we all share. But all right, well, and for everyone still watching, my Instagram is Tall Frog. Also, you can find me on there for that. Just Tall Frog, one word. My Twitter is Oceanic Master, and my book is Dreams and Intuition, which you can find on lulu.com is the publisher. So lulu.com. So, well, we'll see where this goes, and then maybe someday we'll have another one.
Cool. Thank you, Joel. Cool. You have a great day.
All right. I will. Thank you.
Bye.
Talk to you soon.